Bonjour de nouveau, Madame le ministre de la Promotion de la Famille, Monsieur le ministre de la Jeunesse et de l'Éducation civique, merci à vous tous de m'accueillir ici ce matin pour participer dans cette petite conférence que vous allez vivre pendant la journée d'aujourd'hui de TEDx sur le thème de Limitless, Redefining Success. Je vais vous prier d'accepter que je vais délivrer la plupart de mon allocution, sinon la totalité en anglais. Comme nous venons d'entendre ici, dans l'hymne national de votre pays bilingue, il est bien évident que Cameroun a, disons, un don, dans le sens d'être l'un des peu pays du monde qui est vraiment bilingue. Et donc, pour moi, en tant qu'ambassadeur des États-Unis d'Amérique ici, évidemment, je peux parler français, c'est une partie de mon métier en tant que diplomate américain, mais ici ce matin, avec votre permission, je vais parler plutôt en anglais. When I was asked to come and speak this morning about the idea of limitless, redefining success, I started thinking about my own personal and professional journey and what I've experienced over more than 30 years as a U.S. diplomat, much of that time spent here in Africa. And what I have seen, what I've been honored to witness time and again, is that our most amazing innovations, our most amazing successes, our breakthroughs, don't arise from the genius of one particular person. They arise from our capacity to collaborate across differences, to think past limits that may have been put in front of us, and to work together with compassion and conviction to build something new and to build something better. That's the essence of what it means to be a diplomat, to communicate across cultures, to work hand in hand with people from places that are not our own home. Since its inception in 1984, TED and the TED movement, of which TEDx is a part, has evolved from a one-off conversation among innovators at a conference talking about where technology, entertainment, and design come together to become a global platform for ideas worth sharing. And that is just one example of how when people work together, things evolve, things grow. It started as a small little conference and a conversation, and now here we are in Yaoundé, Cameroon, in 2025, having a conversation about redefining success as being without limits. This is evidence right here. And I want to add my thanks to Nadia and to Freddie for organizing this event and for inviting me to participate this morning. Thank you very much. Now let's take a minute here to consider the theme of today's sessions. Limitless. Redefining success. We live in a world that often defines for us what success is supposed to look like. Success is having a stellar career. Success is having a good salary, a nice house, a fancy car, good clothes, social status, the right kind of friends, connections. Those may all be indicators of success. But what I think is that definition is missing something. That definition fails to take into account the collaborative nature of the world, the interconnected world that we live in today. And we need to start redefining success, not about my fancy car, my fancy house, my nice salary, my good job, but we, us, nous, ensemble. What can we do together? What does success look like for all of us working together? Limitless isn't just a word. It's a concept. It's a mindset. It's an idea that asks us to challenge our preconceived notions and to build something better. For me, not just as an individual, but as the ambassador of the United States, limitless has a very personal and patriotic meaning. Our country has often defined itself as the land of opportunity. I would like to think of it as the land of possibility, where big dreams are encouraged. Everybody's heard about the American dream, la rêve américaine. What does that mean? That is a challenge to every person who has crossed an ocean, who has crossed a desert, who has taken a plane, and gone to the United States with nothing more than an idea, and ended up building a corporate empire, and starting a social movement, and designing futures that were previously unimaginable. As an American child, you are taught, you are encouraged from your very earliest age to dream big. It's not just an encouragement, it's an expectation. In the land of Uncle Sam and Silicon Valley, we are told it is okay to aim big. It's okay to try and fail. But when you fail, you pick yourself back up and you start again. You don't allow that failure, that temporary setback, to limit you beyond what you know you can realize. No should not be the end of the conversation. No should be the beginning of a new way of looking at things. When somebody tells you no, you say, okay, maybe not now, maybe that way. But I'm going to find another way, and I'm going to redefine my path. Let's think for a second about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Everybody knows who she is? She went to the United States to study. She left Nigeria, a young woman. She went to the United States to study, and she has become one of the most respected and prominent writers on the planet. And Chimamanda did not wait for somebody to give her permission to tell her stories. She took the initiative herself to write boldly, to speak truthfully, and to redefine how the world looks at Africa, to redefine how the world looks at women. Status. She told her truths because she took the initiative. She didn't let boundaries limit her. Steve Jobs. Everybody knows who Steve Jobs is, or was. Steve Jobs dropped out of college to found Apple in his garage. But Steve Jobs wasn't just selling computers. Steve Jobs revolutionized the way that we do our work. He revolutionized the way that we interact. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college, stayed up through the night coding Facebook. And he has affected billions of people around the world through his various media platforms and how we interact with one another in today's global world. Now, I know there are some students in the audience this morning. I want to be very clear. My examples of Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg are not intended to encourage you to drop out of school. My two friends, the ministers in the front row, got nervous when I started talking about the successful dropouts. Okay, stay in school. All right? The world already has too many brilliant technology experts who can't even remember their own passwords. Okay? But what I am saying is these people succeeded not because they followed a path that had been set out for them, but because they saw that there was probably a new path to be created. Where there wasn't a map already in existence, they drew their own. Now, that's the spirit of limitlessness. It's the culture of creativity. It's the ability to see beyond. That's what I want you to take away from, not my remarks, but from the day here at TEDx. That you can think big. you can think bold. You can create your own path and your own map. Now, I talked about Steve Jobs and Chimamanda and Zuckerberg, and I could have named a whole bunch of other people, and maybe you're sitting there saying, okay, that's America. That's not Cameroon. That's America. Let me tell you something. Limitless doesn't live in a country. Limitless doesn't live in a passport. Limitless is inside every one of us, me, every one of you out there. You have it inside. You just need to tap into it and find that path and draw that map for yourselves. So, the world today, I don't think, needs necessarily more winners. It needs more dreamers. It needs more innovators. It needs more creative people who are going to say, you're going this way, I'm going that way. Because that way is unknown, but I see the end of the line. I see the end of the tunnel. I see what could be. And you work for what you think should be. This is a paradigm shift. It's a different way of looking at things. But remember what I said at the beginning. It's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's about collaboration. It's about working together. It's about putting values over vanity and sharing over individual achievement. In January, at the beginning of this year, some friends of mine and I, a bunch of Cameroonian friends and I, set up a challenge for ourselves. We were going to walk, and yes, I said walk, from Simalen Airport to my house up the street here in Bastos. And people thought we were crazy when they heard about this challenge we had given for ourselves. And maybe we were. Maybe that was an insane thing to think that we could achieve. But let me tell you something. 13 people started at Nsimalen at 7 o'clock that morning, and 5.5 hours later, 13 people were standing in my garden. It was hard. We got tired. Sometimes one or others of us wanted to give up a little bit. But when we saw that one member of our group was lagging a little bit behind, someone else would stop and wait for them to catch up. And then they would walk together for a while, keeping each other's legs moving and keeping each other's spirits high. That's what I'm talking about. Limitless. Most of you probably know I've spent a lot of my career in Africa. Ghana, in particular, is famous for its idioms and its adages. I know Cameroon is as well. And that image that I just gave you of walking from Simalen reminds me immediately of the one, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's what we did on our walk from the airport to Bastos. What would our communities, our nations, the world look like if we all redefined success in that way? We could have put limits on ourselves and said, we're not going to walk from Simalen to Bastos. That's crazy. But we didn't. We said we're going to succeed. And we did, together. When I first arrived in Cameroon a little over 3 years ago as the U.S. ambassador, one of the first things I did is I brought my senior staff together and I said, what are our values as a mission going to be? What is going to underpin the work that we do together over the next few years? And as a result of that conversation, we came up with 4 key values that have governed and defined everything we have done since then. Respect, integrity, community, and efficiency. What one of our Cameroonian colleagues calls RICE. It's an easy way to remember it. Respect, integrity, community, efficiency. They may seem simple, but we have found that they are powerful. They've helped us to redefine our success. Respect commits us to listening before we lead. Integrity grounds us in truth. Community ensures that we are all moving together along that path. And efficiency turns ideas into impact. That's our version of success. Measured not in titles, but in trust, not in status, but in service. So as we leave here today, as you leave here today, what I want to challenge all of you, and I'm going to give myself this same challenge, is to think about and come up with what values do you see that guide your life? What values do you want to underpin your success? And to dream big, to dream bold, not to fear failure, to view those setbacks as opportunities for self-improvement and betterment that will keep you moving forward. And as I said when I was talking about Chimamanda and Jobs and Zuckerberg, if you think there is a path and there's no map, draw your own. Have a great conference.